Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining me and thank you for your continued support. So today Pat McFadden was before the Work and Pensions Committee, and he basically was asked a series of questions about various subjects which I'm going to try and go through with you. Now I did skirt through most of this so that you could hopefully get the gist of what they were saying, but I will leave a link to its entirety. It's about 2 hours long, so I will leave a link to it in the description below. Now it's on the BBC iPlayer, but I realise from my other channel especially that there may be people who don't have the BBC anymore, so the link I will give you is a link to a YouTube video from UK Parliament, so you can watch it that way. So to begin with, I mean, these aren't in any particular order, they're not necessarily in the order they were, these are just things that came to my mind while I was watching it. But he was talking about NEETS in particular, those not in education, employment or training, and he said that basically he wants to try and improve the number of people who are NEETS into some kind of training or work. And he said that they are primarily going to be focusing on the young, and one of the reasons he gave for this is because he didn't want this young generation to end up on a life of benefits like some other generations have, and he says that their idea is to get them young out of benefits into work. Now of course it does depend on what they're talking about. If they're talking about disability benefits, then of course that's going to be a very difficult issue indeed. Anyway, so that's why they've been talking a lot about the young people, because this is primarily the area they're going to be focusing on from now on. That doesn't mean they're not going to try and get other people into work, but their focus is at the moment apparently on the young in terms of the NEET category, shall we say. But interestingly, one of the people on the committee asked them what were the ballpark figures of how many they think they can get back into work or training, because they said, you know, you must have done some kind of risk assessment or some kind of projection to find out how many young people you think we can get back into work and training. They didn't say what that number was. They didn't give any hints or anything like that. They just said that you know, this is something which they're working towards and things like this. So they couldn't give them a number of how many they expect to get back into work as a result of the schemes they've got working at the moment, which is telling, I think, because I don't think they actually know. Either that or their projections are so low that they don't want to publish it, and I suspect it's either one of those, because as we said before, where are the jobs out there? And yes, there are growing industries such as the building trade and things like that for the new homes, but as somebody else pointed out on the committee, many employers, if they're employing someone young, they want them to have some kind of experience, and many young people don't. Pat McFadden said that this is why they're trying to get people into training, young people into training, to give them those skills. But of course this is going to take a while. I don't think it's not going to happen overnight. They've got to get them on courses, they've got to do the course, then they've got to apply for a job. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take a couple of years, I think, at least, for anything like that to come to fruition. They also talked about the Waspi women. Apparently this is now being put back under consideration. He didn't want to preempt what was going to happen in terms of a result, but he did say that it is being reconsidered, so that's good news for the Waspi women. One other thing about the NEETS, by the way, was one of the reasons why he said he couldn't give a projection is because he didn't know, or rather couldn't say, how much money the Chancellor was going to give them for the projects that they want to put forward. Now, so that suggests to me that maybe he isn't being given quite as much money as he was hoping for, which means they might not be able to do quite as much as they intended originally. But anyway, that's just a little side issue. They were also talking about pension credit, about how many people apply for pension credit when they did that big ad campaign about getting people to apply for pension credit. They did say that, you know, are they continuing with this? And they are. They do want to continue to try and get people to apply for pension credit if they think they're eligible. So if you think you may be eligible, you can of course speak to the DWP or Citizens Advice. They will be able to tell you if you are eligible as well. So that's something you might want to consider if you think you may be eligible for that, because obviously it does give you access to other things as well. Pension age was also discussed, because they wanted to talk about the fact that the pension age is going up from next year, and they were saying that they obviously want to try and support people who are going to be in this transition going up for another year. They also project that more people will stay in work or go into work because of the pension age moving forward by a year. And I think that's probably the reason why they've done it. One of it, of course, is because of the costs, but also because I think they just want people to stay in work longer. So I think that's probably the reason why they've done it. They've also talked about the work capability assessment. Now, as it said in the Green Paper, I should say, they wanted to abolish the work capability assessment and make it sort of part of the PIP process and have it all as one process. Now, that was kind of shelved when the Green Paper was done, and obviously there's not going to be a White Paper now. So they were asked, or Pat McFadden was asked, what's going to happen with the work capability assessment. Now, he didn't say what's going to happen. He just said, well, we will communicate what we're going to do in the future. So he didn't say they were going to scrap it altogether. He didn't say that they were going to keep it. So at the moment, it's still a little bit up in the air as to what's going to happen with the work capability assessment. But certainly, if you stick on this channel, subscribe and all that good stuff, I will of course let you know as soon as anything happens in regards to work capability assessment and what they plan to do with it. But it certainly looks at the moment as though the plan to scrap it has been put on hold. So I imagine it's still going to be going ahead for the foreseeable future. I imagine it'll probably be waiting. They'll probably wait until after the TIMS report comes back in the autumn of next year before they actually give you or consider what they might do with the work capability assessment. And also, they were talking about universal credit. Now, people were a couple of people were asking questions to Pat McFadden about the fact that obviously new claimants for universal credit will now get half the money that existing claimants will get, and he was asked if they've done an impact assessment on what that will do to people, how that will affect people, and who are going to be on half the money. And he said that basically the system they inherited you had two doors. One door, you were put into a work group where you had to do 35 hours a week looking for a job. You went in the other door and you basically didn't have to do anything for double the money, which is a very simplistic way of saying or of putting it, and really doesn't do justice to the people who are on it. So he said that they didn't want that to happen any longer, so that's why they brought in this half money for new claimants. They were asked about what the impact would be for people who are applying but getting half the money, and he said that they will continue to get support. Now, I imagine that's going to be not monetary support. I imagine that's going to be support in other ways, but of course that might not necessarily be what people need. People need to put food on the table. People need to go for job interviews if they're thinking about applying for jobs, or if they're long-term sick and they need to get to the hospital, how are they going to do that if they don't have the money to do that? So it was a very disappointing reaction from Pat McFadden on that, and he didn't really have any idea what the impact would be, I don't think, on people who were going to get half the money. And I think one of the reasons why, again, I think there's two reasons here. Either one, they know what's going to happen and it's so horrible they can't tell the committee, or two, they just don't know what the situation is going to be when people get half the money. I can tell you now what's going to happen. People are going to be destitute. Food banks are going to start having even more people going to them because people can't afford food. Charities are going to get overrun because of the amount of people that need help. This is what's going to happen. But that's not funded by the government, so they're not really going to care, are they? Anyway, that's just my thoughts on what Pat McFadden was talking about during the Work and Pensions Committee. I know this is a longer video, I apologise for that, but I just wanted to get all of this in. I will leave a link to the entire meeting in the description below. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of those things that I've been talking about. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Please do subscribe if you've got this far, and I'll see you next time.